I think about regret proofing my life, laughing, being present, being available, having great relationships, being silly, trusting my intuition, being spontaneous. Like, to me, that's how like, truly, I've said this, and a friend of mine, he and I were having a walk in New York a few years ago, and it was, I think, one of the most beautiful moments because we both said, if anything happened, right, and life is very unpredictable, we never know how much time we have, we never know what can change. If anything happens, I'm okay with how I spent my time so far.
Hey, welcome back to the Awe Shift podcast. I'm excited you were here because we have someone to talk to that I'm excited to talk to. Now, as this whole podcast is all built around how successful people make shifts happen. And this is a successful person by many accounts. They've been on, featured on Oprah and the Good Morning America and all these cool things, written books. They're on their third book now. They're also a speaker and author. And in my few minutes getting to kind of briefly interact with this human has a brightness to them. And there's a joy that you want to be able to have as a human that I think this person is exuding. So I want to know, as we dig into this, where that comes from. Because as you know, as well as I do, not everybody who is bright and joyful has always had bright and joyful moments. As you may be listening and thinking that exact same thing. So we can go through this today. I want you to listen in because the biggest thing that we're going to talk about really is around this person's book called Let It Be Easy. It's how to meet stress in your life in a different managing way. And so I don't know too much about it. I'm going to dig in and we're going to find out about it together. So without further ado, please help me welcome to the show, Susie Moore. How are you?
Anthony, thank you for having me. I love the name of this podcast and the work that you do. And I'm thrilled to be here talking about one of my favorite things, ease.
Awesome. And I get to talk to people. I get to do what I like to do, which is talk to people. And I don't even know how this came to be. It was kind of this thing. I'm like, I just want to talk to human beings. So I would find a reason. It was a podcast. And
Yeah.
we're now 350 episodes in, and we just got a contract to actually get onto a cool little group of podcasts. So I love this ability.
Congrats.
And the reason
so
I
cool.
love it is because I get to meet cool people like you. So let's dig into this. I have one question I always start with. And you can take it wherever you'd like to go. Be humble, be braggadocious, totally up to you.
Okay.
Let's say I'm walking around town and I sit down at a coffee shop and you're sitting next to me. I don't know you. And for some reason, you turn and start talking to me. Why should I listen to you?
Why should you listen to me? Well, an intention that I have always, I think my foundational intention wherever I go is to be an uplifter. So if someone encounters me, my goal is that they might be a bit happier, maybe taking their lives a little less seriously in the best way possible, and that they maybe smile. So
Right.
I cannot control how anyone receives me. Nobody can control other people, but my
Yeah.
intention is always to be an uplifter. So if you want to
Right.
feel better, hang out with me.
Yeah. What's funny is I always tell people that when you're in funky places, one of the best things you can do is borrow joy from
Oh,
those who
yeah.
have more joy to give, right? Borrow
Mm.
specifically because at some point you'll have enough to give on. But it sounds like you're the person that people can come borrow joy from.
Yes, in A Course in Miracles, it says that miracles occur between two people when someone who temporarily has more gives to someone who temporarily has less.
Ooh,
And we know that feeling, right? When we're stressed
yeah.
out, frustrated, things aren't going our way, when you're going through challenges in your life, and we all do, no matter how well trained our mind is, no matter how much adversity we've already overcome, life, there is no straight river, right? It's always
Mhm.
going to be winding and there are different experiences.
Yeah.
But I always just come back to, yeah, look, how I feel is going to be up to me, and intention for me is very important.
Beautiful. I like that. And it's a good way to look at the world. Because if
Mhm.
you don't have intention about stuff, things just happen and you always go, oh, I could have done this. And then you feel like you almost beat yourself up because you didn't actually lean
Mm.
into it intentionally. And it adds a
Mhm.
negative feeling. It compounds it like, oh, you suck. See? And now your proof is that you're not doing great. Now, I'm going to venture to assume that this was not a thing you had at birth, right? This wasn't a human trait that you had. Do you mind guiding us through some part of the annals of your history that
Yes.
allowed this mentality to settle itself into your soul?
Yes, 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 yes. And you're right. They say that, we teach what we need to learn, right? Or we write the book that we needed to read.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I think that ease ease as a word isn't even really used very often. No one's like,
Yeah.
how's your life? Oh, it's full of ease. Oh, it's so easeful, this thing that I'm doing. Like, it's quite foreign to think about ease as a goal, or ease as even being something that's available,
Yeah.
because that's just not the lens that the average person would look through. Like, with ease being something that they can access really in any
Hmm.
moment. It shows up like a small miracle. But when I was growing up, I had a lot of change. I lived in with my mum and sister in domestic violence shelters. I saw a lot of chaos. I there was just constant change, right?
Yeah.
And if anyone who's listening, if they've lived with any addiction, any abuse, like, what you experience as a human being, not feeling safe, not
Yeah.
feeling certain about, what tomorrow will be, the next day. I know, Anthony, too, you've had your very varied experiences, like deeply personal experiences. And so as a young adult, I always thought to myself, as soon as I leave home, get a job, like, I'm going to be cool because I'm going to get like a normal was even the goal at the point, like a normal
Yeah.
husband, live in a house that is mine, that I'm
Yeah.
not sharing with other people, and I might get kicked out, like, with that constant question mark.
Yeah.
I thought, in my 20s, once I kind of figure out a few things, then life's going to be so easy. Like,
Yeah.
because I'll have money, I'll be able to take care of my mum
Yeah.
financially. I'll live with a man who doesn't want to shout, like, where we're not like physically fighting with, like, it's going to be so sweet and easy once
Amazing.
I get
Yeah.
there. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then and then, of course, went for it, right? I worked really hard to create a life that I was proud of. I worked in the tech sector. I was making 500K a year, all
Mhm.
without a college degree. I've just hustled my way.
Yeah.
I got married, divorced, then got married to my now husband, who
Mhm.
is such an angel. And still, like, so I was married, had a good job on paper, certainly looking good. No one would complain. I had
Yeah.
really nothing to complain about.
Hmm.
But I was constantly not letting anything be easy. I was starting fights for no reason, feeling
Hmm.
anxious about, in any moment, like
Interesting.
thinking, like, what, I was unable to just take my seat and
Yeah.
relax. And I think this is very common for a lot of people.
What was the
And we
seed for
throw up a
that?
lot of, yeah, well, we throw up a lot of resistance to a lot of things in life, right? We're like, this
Yeah.
shouldn't be right. I need to control that person. This has to go my way. This is a failure. I just don't look at the world that way
Hmm.
anymore. And knowing that ease is available, knowing that it's something that I'm consciously tuning into, has
Yeah.
saved me. Like,
That's
it's
big.
truly saved me. And there is no going back. Like, once you know that that you can
Yeah.
live this way, you know. Hmm.
And gosh, you said a lot of things that I don't want to say triggered me. That's like definitely not the
Hmm.
word I want to use, but made my brain go, "Ooh, I want to know more about that." Because
Mm.
the idea of, like, I started fights for no reason,
Oh, yeah.
and like I had this, because my brain goes to the aspect of, like, people who are lottery winners. People who have a
Hmm.
lottery, like they aren't used to having much money, then they win millions, and they end up going broke, like almost more broke than they were before within a few
Yeah.
years. And people, well,
Hmm.
how's it happen? And I started thinking, like, I think it's psychological. I think sometimes they look at their bank account and go, I am not worth what I see here. Let me get this
Hmm.
number down to something that feels more connected to who I am. And they bring the number down to where they felt beforehand because they felt. So I
Yeah.
wonder, like, did you feel like there was any reason you didn't deserve the success you had? Or was there something that was battling inside that created this desire to create fights and create chaos?
Yes. I'm so happy you asked this. I think it's a couple of things. First of all, when we grow up with a lot of uncertainty and a lot of change, and screaming in my house, that was very normal. Like,
There you go. Yeah.
I'm actually very calm in a situation that some people might be
Yes, yeah.
like scared of. Like, I'm actually soothed. I'm okay. I'm steady. But I feel like that's what I just wanted to continue to create because it was familiar to me.
Hmm.
And so we typically continue we can create experiences in our lives that are familiar, because even if it's not good, it's comfortable because
Yeah.
we're used to it.
Hmm.
So I think I was just kind of creating again and again something that I'm used to, like, is everything okay? Wait, drama is like kind of just, it's marriage, right? Like, that was my understanding, that was what
Yeah.
was modeled to me. And
Hmm.
then, secondly, I feel as if, yeah, there was like a resistance to allowing myself to enjoy like what it was that I had created, and there's almost like a real courage that you need to be happy. Like,
Yeah.
it requires courage to go, maybe this is all okay, and I can even go for more. Like,
Yeah.
it's maybe everything that's showing up in my life, I deserve it, and I can allow it in without throwing up these problems, like wanting to control my husband, wanting to
Hmm.
create like this, wanting to create issues that aren't don't mean anything, because it either feels familiar or I don't feel really quite comfortable with just a calm, easy life.
I get that. I get it intimately. I know you don't know too
Hmm.
much of my story, but I think whenever you're in chaos, you normalize. There's a great book.
Hmm.
What is it? Oh, is it
There are so
Outliers?
many great books on this topic. I'm obsessed
Right?
with them.
There's
But
one
yeah.
that talks about how I want to say it might be Outliers. It probably isn't though.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be The Power of Habit. That might be it. So it
Mm-hmm.
talks about families, and they had these families, and they had one family was chaos written and one that was calm. When things got calm, somebody in the family created chaos. For the family that was used to having chaos, for the family that was used to being calm, when chaos happened, they all shut down until it got back to being calm, because people go
Mm-hmm.
back to their set points. And so when you said there's a lot of yelling in the house, like I grew up in the same aspects, and so there's always crazy and chaos. And so whenever I get to the point of having peace, I found there was something I would do to like create chaos to kick it up because I'm more normalized there, right? But I'm like
Oh
you
yeah.
now. I am set to peace. That
Oh.
took time.
And the thing is, Anthony, like we can look at our backgrounds and it's an explanation, but it's not an excuse to not create something else now.
Very true.
Like, because it's so easy to be like, well, I grew up this way, and I could be like, my dad died of, alcoholism and drug addiction. That's why I take drug. Like, I can look at it as someone who can observe my life. There is a
Hmm.
separation and a space that this is just all consciousness does, and I can choose another way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, this is where the magic of being a human being is. Like, we are so powerful. Like,
Yeah.
what it is that we can create, what it is that we can reject, the way that we can just choose something else, like the magic of that, knowing that it's
Yeah.
available. Why wouldn't we? Like,
Hmm.
and it's not to say that it's a straight river, right? Because show me a straight river, right? But
Yeah.
it's available. Another way is available. And if you find that you're creating problems in your life, there's stress that maybe is stress that is unnecessary, right? Because there is. I mean, and by the way, stress isn't something that we need to push against, right? It just means that
No.
there's meaning in our lives and we
Yeah.
care about things. And a
Hmm.
meaningful life has stress. There's no getting around it.
True.
But there's a lot of unnecessary stress that we can question. We can go,
Yeah.
what am I believing about this situation? Is it true? What else could be truer? What else could be available?
Mm.
Because I look at young me, Anthony, and I feel like I want to hug her and go like, it's okay.
Yeah. You're tripping. Cut it out.
But I was doing my best. Like I was like, I'm just doing my best, and I just
Yeah.
didn't know, which is why
Yeah.
I'm obsessed about this topic. And truly, like Anthony, this comes up so much. I'm very lucky to know a lot of very successful women, right?
Hmm.
Like they are, I mean, think about the language we use even to describe powerful people, like, badass, like fierce, strong,
Yeah.
like powerful.
Very.
I mean,
Yeah.
but what about the relaxed woman, right?
Yeah.
What about the woman who is like, I'm easy about things. Like,
Yeah.
there isn't really a bucket. Like there isn't. That's
No.
not. And someone can be like doing great things, achieving great things, speaking, running for office, like whatever it may be, and they're certainly maybe accomplishing. They're doing well, but like, are they living well?
Yeah.
and like truly, like the era of the relaxed woman for me, it's the ultimate rebellion.
I like
It's
that.
like,
That's a
what?
good draw.
I've got a lot going on, and I'm relaxed.
Yeah.
How about
There's a
that?
power. I think
Mm-hmm.
it is because it's such an oxymoron. I think to most people,
Mm-hmm.
there's like I was just telling my son last night. I got home. We had a family trip last week in Hawaii.
Oh,
Came
yeah.
back. I
Oh,
literally
okay.
landed at I think 9 p.m. I was in the airplane the next morning at 11 a.m. So like less than 12 hours.
Wow.
And then I had I had speech. I came home. I'm here now with you. I take off tomorrow to
Mhm.
LA for 2 more interviews and podcasts. I come back Friday, whole day, fly out Saturday, take my son off to college, back Sunday, right? And so the thing is, I say that to go, my life, most people couldn't pop into. They would fall apart on day one. And I'm not saying I'm better. I'm just more conditioned because at the same time, I'm at peace. I can do all this stuff. And I find
Mm.
that more people are drawn to that. I get more people that go, man, I respect how you get all this stuff. I don't know how you do it. There's more of a draw to that than going like, muscle through, you got it. It's like, no, the fact that I can do all that and then be like, I'm just big chilling at the house with my wife or watching a TV show, hanging out. Like there
Oh.
is something to that people are drawn to. So I'm going to lead with this question and go, how did you create that? Because your book's about let it be easy, right? How
Hmm.
did that become something that you were a person who goes, man, one, I've navigated it, figured it out. Two, let me teach how to do
So first of all, I love that you share this experience because it doesn't mean that you're not busy. It doesn't mean that you haven't got places to go and you've got commitments and your life is full, right? Like that's not in question.
it. Hmm.
But there can still be a peace that you
Yeah.
experience going through. I remember when Oprah Winfrey interviewed Deepak Chopra, she made a comment. She said something like, Deepak, you're very hard to get as a guest because you're in India speaking, then you're in London, and then you're in Geneva. And she's like, it was really hard to book you. So she's like, you must be just a very, very busy man. And he said, well, my body is busy, but my mind is still.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, ha, now that is like a revolution. Like that is possible, but we just don't think that it's available. So to answer your question, for me, it certainly wasn't overnight. Like, absolutely not. No changes like that for me have lasted instantaneously. But the one core practice that I always come back to, and it's simple, amen for simple, right? But the one core practice that I always come back to that allows me to retain my steadiness when things go wrong, when I'm disappointed, when there's just life's frustrations, is when I experience a negative emotion in my body, and we all feel them, right? We can often have these very somatic symptoms. Stress kind of manifests differently for everybody, but a lot of them are similar. The reactions that we have, we feel the heaviness, we feel the tightness, inability to be present. Whenever that happens, I always it's like a beep that I hear almost, the only I can hear. And I'm like, what am I believing in this moment?
Yeah.
Because in this moment, I'm rejecting reality. I'm thinking that something is wrong, something needs to be fixed, or that something shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
It can be like a flight delay. It can be someone who I think is rude to me, right? It can be someone who I think is taking advantage of me. Like whatever it is, I feel the feeling. I get my inner, that it's amazing, like real-time feedback loop, the emotions that you're feeling. Yeah. And I'm like, what am I believing in this moment? I'm believing something bad about a person, something bad about myself. I'm believing the situation should be different. And then, like a detective, I will lovingly look and see if it's true. Mm-hmm. So even recently, for an example, I had, there's someone who I collaborate with in business, and he and I had some back and forth, and I thought like he was really off, like with some numbers that we were looking at together. And my ego was like, I think he's taking advantage of me. That was my first thought. Yeah. And then, thoughts attract similar thoughts, right? So I'm like, how dare he? Like, how could this be happening? Like, what is going, right? And then so got that little like ding ding in my body. Okay, I'm feeling tense. I'm feeling like a lot of resentment in this moment. I'm feeling some fear in this moment. I'm like, what am I believing about this interaction, about this email that I received? Mm-hmm. And I look at it, I actually read it properly. Yeah. Right? So let's be present here. I'm not like flying off the handle. Old me was very good at that. Making assumptions. I'm like, what am I believing? And then I read it properly. And I'm like, actually, he's right. Yeah. And can you imagine, like, if I went straight back,
you'd have a problem.
There'd be a phone call. I'd be like, I need a glass of wine now because I'm so annoyed. Like, and then, why do people do this? Like the spiral.
Whole different thing, yeah.
The spiral stops early with consciousness, and we can all do this. Maybe your mother-in-law says something about your parenting, right? Style, or someone has an opinion online about you. You have to really assess like what's real, what's true, and what's really worthy of your stress, because a lot of it can just like the best way to solve it is to drop it, to not give it your attention, or just to be forgiving and allowing.
Yeah, that is a statement. I think is what I heard. It kind of sounds like this: it's no moment has any meaning except the meaning you place upon it. Mm-hmm. And so like I heard that, and then I'm hearing everything going, yeah, it's 100%. Because there is a moment in time when a certain level of consciousness, I love you frame it that way, comes up, and now you can have a conversation with yourself. I do this often, and I try to do it in a sense of being like critiquing myself also, because the moment I can step in and go, hey man, where are you messing this up right now? And I'll have that conversation inside. I'll sit somewhere and talk about it. But then here's the thing is, and this is what I do too. I think successful people do this. You can go back and eat some crow, they'll say, and go, I messed this up. There was no way to do it. And it's not like it's taking you down notches. It's just being honest. It's stronger in that aspect. But I think when you can do that, you see the world differently. You see the world for most of the time what it actually is. And even if it is the other way around, you can manage your response, even if it is bad, right? You can manage your response better. You can actually not meet that person at that level, and you can do things a little more tactically to maybe even save the relationship, or, tactically remove yourself without causing craziness. But is that level of consciousness, like you said, going and asking yourself, hey, is this right? How did you, what was like the first time that happened for you? Because it doesn't happen for most people. They just run off the gamut and roll.
Yeah, for me, it actually started when I was really observing other people and the stress that they would experience in areas where I didn't experience much stress. So
Mm,
for me, I remember I had this coworker and she was a real awakening force in my life because she was always flying off the handle when
mm,
management changed things and
yeah,
new product features and updates in the tech world, like, they're meaningful. But whenever there was a shift and she wasn't happy or she wasn't clear, she was like, like a machine gun, like straight with all the like problem. And
yeah.
first of all, I kind of admired her energy. Like I'm like, I'm like
It's
this woman
she's
has a lot.
going. Yeah.
She's fire. Yeah. And I'm like, why is she stressed out about this? So I think sometimes it's easier to observe in someone else when they assign meaning or attach stress to something that maybe just requires a bit more curiosity and frankly a bit more patience.
Yeah.
So as it like in my 20s being in my job, I when I would observe her, I'm like, how can this be true for me? If I'm noticing it in her, there's clearly stress in my life too. Mine was more at home in my marriage. At work, I've always
Mhm.
been relatively calm because I felt like more in control naturally, I guess. But in a relationship, I was like, maybe there's something I can pay attention to here. Maybe I can be willing to like drop my ego momentarily and see where I can be creating,
Mhm.
a lot of this very successfully all on my own. And I have an Australian husband. He's relaxed. Like
Mhm.
he wanted to, we went to couples therapy because he was going to leave me.
Mhm.
He's like, you are too difficult. He's like, he used to actually stay at work late versus coming home to fight with me
Mhm.
because I was ready. Like I
Yeah.
was like, oh, and then I'd have an opinion about the time that he came home. So I can lovingly look at myself now without judgment, like doing my best.
Yeah.
But through, I think, the course of observation and going like, do I want to be like that person? Maybe there's someone else I can model. Sometimes we learn just through paying attention and seeing like, like is that, I want a bit more of that, or show me the way, or hmm, it's possible to have this reaction or that reaction. And then I became
Yeah.
obsessed, Anthony, with learning just all about stimulus and response, the space between them, where
Yeah.
that's where all of the magic is, and
Mhm.
just slowing down myself. And frankly, if I'm being honest, also just taking a whole lot less seriously.
Mhm.
Like,
It's a good way to
I
look at
love
it.
to laugh. Like, I even when like things go wrong, something happened wrong yesterday, pretty big in my in with some tech, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going live anyway. Let this be a lesson, friends.
It
Like,
happens. Yeah.
I can't present, it won't work, but here we are anyway. Let's have a little
Yeah.
chuckle, and maybe you'll feel better in the future when this happens to you.
Yeah.
So I also just want to enjoy my life, and be present
Yeah.
and laugh a lot. Keeps you
I
young.
like that. So it's funny you just said that at the end because so the way this whole podcast works, I just listen and I let my brain go like, where do you want to go with this, Anthony? And then it goes
Yeah.
places. And what my brain just pulled up went right when you were saying it was like, you want to live your life. It
Mm-hmm.
feels like whenever I'm interacting with people who are in this space you're in, like there's a certain place that I got to where I didn't. I don't want to say I don't care about goals. I have goals. I want to
Mm-hmm.
get places, but I cannot bring myself at this moment to wait to be happy. I
Mm.
want to be happy now on the path to getting there and have that be a cherry on top. And
Mm.
so what I'm hearing is you said, look, I'm tired of, living life in the sprint to get to somewhere to be happy. And I said, I'm gonna be happy now. So I think that's why you're probably, in my opinion, kind of like, how do I navigate this now in the real time? Because this is what I'm actually experiencing. So it
Yeah.
feels like, so do you have a big goal of life or is it generally just to be like, I'm gonna be happy today and every day?
I have goals that are very clear and I'm relentless in working towards
Mm-hmm.
them. Like they're clear.
Mm-hmm.
I know my 2023 goal. I know my even travel goals. For me,
Yeah,
they're clear because clarity is fun.
it is
And this
true.
is where, again, intention I think is so powerful because I get this vision of like a plastic bag, like blowing through the wind like that. That's like an
Yeah,
aimless life, like, oh well, okay, shiny object, that person is an influencer, I should copy them. It's like I
yeah.
like to have my own GPS. I know where I'm going, and when I see
Mm-hmm.
someone with a clear intention and desire, I'm like, get out of their way, they're gonna get there. Like, so
Yeah.
I do my best, and not always, right, of course, and sometimes we'll fall short, but my goals are very clear. But what I know is that the moment of accomplishment, whatever it is very short lived.
Very.
Like, say you get the engagement ring, right, or it's your wedding day, or it's your book launch day. Like, what these moments that punctuate our lives because they're like
Mhm.
the important days.
Yeah,
The nothing days are 99% of the time, right? So
they
if you
are.
even think about someone climbing Everest, how long are they up there?
Not
Once
long. Yeah.
once they summit that puppy, like what, 5 minutes? Photos, I'm here. Like, life
Perfect.
is
Yeah.
the same, right?
Yeah.
So if on the ascent, descent, which is again like vast majority of our life, if that's it, right? If this is where we spend like almost all of our time here on earth, we're not in on the joke if we're waiting for those moments or think that
Yeah.
those moments even really mean more than the ascent or descent, however we define that in our own lives. So
Mhm.
if I'm, and look, success is also a moving target. Once you climb Everest, it's K2, right? And then it's the 8 mountains in 8 months, like that really cool guy just did. I was
Mhm.
watching him. So success is a moving target. The actual wins that we get, like even if you have a really great result, it's proven, through hedonic adaptation, we get used to that really quickly and it doesn't make us as happy as we think it will.
Yeah. No, 100%, man.
So I
I'm
think
with
about
you.
regret proofing my life, laughing, being present, being
Yeah.
available, having great relationships, being silly, trusting my intuition, being spontaneous. Like to me, that's how truly, I've said this. And a friend of mine, he and I were having a walk in New York a few years ago. And it was, I think, one of the most beautiful moments because we both said, if anything happened, right, and life is very unpredictable, we never know
Mhm.
how much time we have, we never know what can change. If
Yeah.
anything happens, I'm okay with how I spent my time so far.
Mhm.
Like, it's not like I've got a relationship to repair or a big risk that I haven't taken, or
Yeah.
even there's always more things, of course, more places to
Always.
see and love to give. But I'm like, if anything happened, like I will be at peace with this being my last day.
That's good. And I think that's 100% where I should live my life. To sum up what you had said, I tell people also, you spend vastly more time on the climb than the peak. And so if you
Oh,
hate the climb, you won't like the peak because you'll get there in a bad mood, like, rah, right? But then if you get to the peak and you enjoy it, like you actually get, well, I want to go back to the climb, man. Like, I enjoy the climb. Let's go, live life. So the destination isn't the destination. The destination is the daily journey. When you arrive in a life you love
mm-hmm.
every day, it's a whole different way of
Mm-hmm.
experiencing it. So
Mm-hmm.
we've been talking about this, and I definitely, I'm assuming this is in the book or it's a conversation you have in the book. So do you mind sharing the book, maybe what the book's about, and honestly, like who's the book for?
Mm. Well, the book is essentially very short chapters talking about very different topics where ease can just hug you like a warm embrace. And look, I'm speaking about grief in the book. So
Oh,
it's
really?
easy to think like there is oh, easy, easy. Yeah, nice for her. Like she's got it,
Yeah.
she's got a nice life, like must be easy. I speak about grief. I speak about the need to defend yourself or not. I speak about strained family relationships. I speak about divorce. Like,
Mm.
we're speaking about the reality of living. Like,
Yeah.
if you're a human being and you've been on this earth a few years, you've suffered. Right?
Hmm.
It shows up differently for everybody. This is why we all need each other,
Yeah.
But I'm speaking about such a variety of topics using my own stories, other people's stories. One thing that I love to do, Anthony, is make like dark, difficult things kind of funny. Like, or to not have such a serious lens. I don't think we need to be heavy to heal. And I just share so many different experiences where there was a situation that could be met with stress and often did through my own experience, and like maybe a different way, like a different potential alternative. Even one example is a friend of mine was sharing that she's not happy with her level of intimacy in her marriage
Yeah.
after a certain amount of years. Happens, this is real life. And we had lunch and she was sharing like, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, like and she was saying, I don't know if I need to lose weight, and the whole litany of just a hard time she was giving
Yeah.
herself, right? Like
Yeah.
hard, tricky, like, and I was like, first of all, where's your gentleness and grace and love for yourself? But I was like, well, all those things like that, we could certainly go down any of those paths, but I wonder, like, when was the last time you made out with your man on the sofa? Like,
Hmm.
what if that's the only thing that's required
Yeah.
to actually have a very different experience starting like this afternoon? Like, what
Hmm.
could this be a little easier? Do we need to really do a deep dive into all the potential problems and solutions, or could we just try something fun? Like, could we try something? Could we use a bit of courage? Like,
Sparky.
could
Yeah.
we be more playful, and then maybe there could be an easier way to get to the result? And often
Hmm.
it's a result. Often the result can come from relaxing a bit, like,
Yeah.
again, not being so serious, being able to like sit, like melt into the moment, and
Mhm.
and just like be present. Like
Be a little
there
more,
are
yeah,
always
less
different
control.
solutions. Yeah, there are always different solutions available, and I'm obsessed with getting where like getting what it is that I want to be, do, and have in the most simple, fun way possible.
Mhm. I think it's a big way of doing it. It's funny as you say that, but I think most people struggle with doing anything that's outside of their current character, right? It's because
Yeah.
you say that, and I'm like, yeah, it
Hmm.
logically makes sense. But I'm assuming for most people, it's the simple, straightforward path because it's not their typical path. They go, "Ooh, that's not who I am to do that." That's a little uncomfortable. But it's like if you could lighten up a little bit, be more playful, you might find it does feel uncomfortable, but it leads to the things you desire most.
Yes. And I would say too, like if we're all being very honest, when do we have our best ideas? Like or when we've okay, so for example, a couple of very natural things, right? So falling asleep,
Yeah,
right? Falling asleep. If you're like, gotta fall asleep. Oh, okay, let me think about this. Let me think about it. Sleep, sleep, sleep. Like like you fall asleep when you're tired and you're not resisting it.
true.
Like sleep can happen very naturally also with intimacy. I also share about this in the book. If you want to experience pleasure, it's not like gotta experience pleasure now. Now is my moment of pleasure. This is my moment. It's like you want to be a little easier about it. You know,
Yeah,
like
let
how
it
can
go.
how can I not be so dramatic? Like
Mhm.
how can my results speak? And often it's we hear about it all the time. It's proven we get our best creative ideas, solutions when we're driving, in the shower, when we're not focused on the problem.
Yeah, yeah, this is
So
true.
the energy that
100%
we
true for
bring to
me.
our life, yeah, the energy we bring to our life, and also I have this assumption now, Anthony, like that whatever happens, this sounds flippant, but I want to explain it. Like, I don't like, I almost don't care what happens. I feel like you'll
I
understand.
get
Like,
it. I get it.
okay,
Yeah.
something
But I
doesn't
mean,
work
you
out.
definitely need to explain to people because I know you don't. It's something you don't care, but you don't care. I get it.
I care a lot. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I care a lot, right? But just say someone cancels something on me, or something I'm looking forward to gets pulled, or like whatever it is, um, it's okay.
Mhm.
Like it's like the steadiness that you can feel where you're unmoved by other boats rocking around you, or
Yeah.
one situation or one person being the reason that you're happy or the reason that you're safe. Like
Yeah.
I'm okay when things change, and I know that what happens isn't really the point. Like whatever and things will go wrong, like however we define that, but that's not where the power is, that's not where the results come from, that's not where the creativity, like it's not tied to the problem. So
No.
what happens is, of course, I'll drive as much as I can, I'll create and guide as much as I can, but there always has to be that element of handing the rest over, and then whatever happens there, we'll see. But
Yeah.
I can't care about that all the time. Like it
I get it.
doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. Because then what happens is you're at the whim of the situation. It's like your happiness is put in this really precarious situation where it's only
Oh
going to
yeah.
be preserved if this right thing happens. And I get it. It's like what's that one thing is a bird that sits in a line. It's not up there because it trusts the line. It's because it trusts its wings. Right? So it's like these
Yes.
things go on, and 100%. Like my life changes, things get moved around and changed. The contract doesn't get. So, well, what would I do?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go and freak out. I can go, oh, it's cool. I got wings. I can fly somewhere else. Like, and there's a different peace and anchoredness. So my life's a through line. I'm in control of it. And there's little things that happen. My buddy calls it Cadillac problems.
Oh.
That's what he calls it. That's a good one. I like that. This is years ago. He called it this. I was like, "We're talking about it
Yeah.
because I got problems." He's like, "I got great suspension, man." So
There
yeah,
you go. I mean, I don't know much about cars, but I like that. And I also feel as if isn't it really wonderful to only know that you're responsible for your part? Like
yeah,
there's, I mean, I know that the biggest cause of misery is really inserting yourself in other people's business and thinking
yeah.
that like they're like, how many people do you need to change in order to be happy? Like, oh,
Mm,
because I've come to understand that all problems that we have in our life are interpersonal. They're all based with people.
yeah,
And so I can do my part. I can show up. I can be myself. I can be the most generous person I can be. But really, that's it. Like, I can only affect the small corner of the world that I touch and give that
hmm
100%. But so much else, like everything else that's out there and going on, I have to be at peace because anything else for me would feel insane.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and you start bringing other people's stuff on, and then you lose sense of self. Because I also know that when those things happen, this is kind of I guess separate area, but I think it may definitely help. I think for me, when I look at other people's situation, other people's problems, I realize that they are handling that thing, navigating that thing, and their logic, even the way their brain processes, is completely foreign to mine. So I will
Mm-hmm.
spend more time trying to figure out why than I need to. And so I'm in a stressful place. It doesn't make sense to me. For example, my mother-in-law, she has, someone she's dealing with and interacting with, where like there's this very clear thing of like, you need to stop doing this one thing, because this thing's causing this, and this. So in this situation, she had a moment to be able to remove the situation. She went back to her old ways. And I go, you're just enduring the problem because you want to have a short-term solution to minimize short-term pain for long-term pain. And my brain, like, this does not compute. And so I just like, I removed myself from it because I gotta keep in peace, because there's more stress for me trying to figure out what logical path is there when there's just not for me. And so you're right, when you're trying to adopt other people's situation, the problems in, you're gonna have more anxiety just trying to make sense of things. And that's just not your job.
Yes, and also this also extends to what the right way of being, right? So, and we adopt this, right, largely from how we were brought up, influences in our lives. But I was coaching in my membership, it's called Self Coaching Society,
Mhm.
this woman recently, and she was saying, she has a lot of guilt around being a working mom, right?
Yeah.
Very, very common. And so I said to her, okay, so being a working mom isn't a problem, right? Like there is no like a woman who works, who has kids, it's a reality for a lot of people. It's a necessity for a lot of people. I
Yes.
think it's so admirable, right? So, but
Mhm.
I'm not here to give my opinion, right? But I was like, okay, so her suffering isn't because she's a working mom, right? Her suffering is the thought that there's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
Right. So she had a definition in her mind, not conscious until we started talking about it,
Hmm.
that there is a way that a mother should be.
Mm.
And this is the right way to parent. This is the right way that a woman should raise her children. It should be dedication. That's what her mother was able to do, right?
Yeah.
And so the situation, like the way that her life is set up with, career and kids, isn't the cause of her suffering. It is her resistance to the fact that that is her reality. It's like it should be something else. It needs to be something else. I'm failing. I'm like, let's look
Yeah.
at your situation. Like really, like let's look at it. It's not sugarcoating. It's the opposite. It's like putting a huge magnifying light glass like
Yeah.
on it and going, okay, let's see the truth of what you're believing about the construct in your mind of what a good mother is.
Yeah. And usually
And
it's
so
other people's involvement too. It's also thinking, how will I be seen?
yes. Oh, yes. And all those things, all of those factors, we get to decide. Like I
Oh,
get to decide. Like I don't even have children, right? Like
mhm.
I get to decide that that's a really cool, awesome life. Some people think it's strange. They're
Yeah.
like, why don't you want kids? You got the best husband. And I know it's loving and well intentioned,
Hmm.
but it's my life. Like
Yeah.
it's my life. And for me, I'm like, I'm winning over here. This is how I set up my life for
Yeah.
me based on my own desires.
Yeah. Your own scale.
So I could have a story that I'm missing out, that there's something sad about this, that there could be a thought that, I mean, there are many thoughts I could have,
Hmm.
but my situation with me is good. Like
Yeah.
I'm good. So when we can make peace with our situation, again, change what we can if we want to change something. Make
Yeah.
sure it's something that we want though, not something that someone else wants for us. There is so you start to realize that there is like this like almost dangerous level of just freedom
Ton of
that
it.
you have.
It's
Look how people
yeah.
live all over the world. We don't eat the same food. We don't speak the same languages. We don't have the
Yeah.
same customs. We're conditioned like as humans. So why don't we create the conditions that are going to
Yeah.
work for us?
I agree. I call it setting your own scale. I was just talking about this
Yes.
today with somebody else. Like I was in a podcast. He said, "What question would you ask, my audience?" And I go, "Well, who set your scale?
Mm-hmm.
Did the world set your scale? Because if the world set your scale, first off, the world scale sucks. It's never set. It's always moving. So when you do something, the world goes, great job, but you could have done more. So you always live in a
Mm-hmm.
space of feeling less than. But I said, at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, if you set your own scale and you live up to your own scale, you are happy with whatever you've done. Even if something comes in and says you could have done more, you go, yeah, but I didn't need to. Right. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
piece to that. And yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
agree. It's this leaning back into your own chair going, I'm gonna make my seat comfortable. I don't care if you like my seat, don't like my seat. And I think there's also
Mm.
a part of it that has to do with the tribal mentality of not wanting to be cast
Mm.
out from my circle. And
Yes.
I go, man, you're gonna endure the pain of being in a circle to be less than, to not be happy, to be unhappy in the circle and unhappy with yourself in the circle, or
Mm.
allow yourself to lean out, do your own thing, and find that the circle may come to you, or you find a different one.
Oh yeah, and there are millions of circles. Like there are
Yeah,
millions of circles. There is an unlimited supply of circles. In fact, in the book,
yeah,
Anthony, I shared this story about two women who went through similar situations. One of them was my mum's friend when I was growing up. Her husband left her for another woman,
mhm,
and she was suicidal. Like you can imagine the community she had, it was all based around her marriage, her family. Another woman came in, like, and so she just felt like that was it. Like
yeah,
that was the end. And as a young coach myself, in the earlier days of my coaching, a lady came to me, similar situation. Her husband left, found another woman, and she moved to California. She always wanted to move to California from New
mhm,
York, and she's like, my husband would never do it, you know.
yeah,
And so she, they worked out their divorce. She got her small settlement, and she's like, I think I'm gonna go to California.
yeah,
And I see pictures of her in Santa Monica running, and I'm like, yes. I'm like,
yeah,
like, but you see, like the situation, right? There is always going to be external things that happen that are unwanted or
mhm,
unexpected, right?
yeah,
So what do we do with that? You know what I mean? Like this is really like true. Like this is where we're like setting the scale. It's like, well, what now? Like, what? It's not just that one community, that one family, that one church, that one shopping mall, whatever it is that you're so used to. There are endless communities out there to be
yeah,
part
totally.
of.
Yeah, too many.
Endless. Like if you think that you, and also I worked with this guy once, Anthony, and he got really drunk at a big work event, and he did some like really weird things, and he was fired, right?
Hmm.
Um, so he made some mistakes, he messed up, right? He was very sorry, but he was kind of like, oh, like no, he had this kind of reputation in our field, right, in the ad tech field,
Yeah,
and he left and he went to an entirely new industry, and
mhm,
he's like doing really well. I saw him on LinkedIn like maybe 3 months ago with some award, and
yeah,
I'm like, so he could go like, it's over. I messed up. My whole
you
industry
could.
knows that I'm like this drunk loser who like does all
Hmm.
this dumb stuff and says dumb stuff. And now he's like in some other industry altogether. Like they don't even care. They don't even
Yeah,
know any of those people. You know?
nobody
So
knows. Yeah,
think like take off the blinders. Like your life, it's only one potential version of many versions
I agree.
that you could choose. And
Yeah,
that fills me with joy. I'm like, I could move to Brazil if I wanted to. I could
yeah,
move to New Zealand. I could, I could, if I want to stop writing and coaching, I could go and like open my own cafe. Like
yeah,
there is so much potential. Like let's not write ourselves off as humans, or like let's not diminish
hmm,
the creativity inside of us, and how the universe also meets us when we have desire and intention that's aligned.
yeah. And do it in a way that's joyful because no matter what you approach, you got some joy in doing it. It's way easier. And I think the rigidity of what people have and that sense of like, it's got to be right, it's got to be this. You don't show up to it your best self. You show up to it only with like a dark energy, not the light energy. And I have a balance too. And so it becomes hard. And I even, like, I played sports, I was an athlete, professional
Mm.
athlete. And so when you play the game, the guys and girls who people sign contracts with, they want to have market their products, they're the ones who are loving playing the game. You see
Mm.
them; they have this joy. They have little, this facial stuff, and there's some sweat. They're loose. Those people aren't playing with this rigid. They're not like that. So if you even look at the people that most of us call our heroes, these athletes that are out there doing the stuff, even they don't play with that same mentality. And so if you can adopt that to your own life and go, yeah, they're not having perfect lives. They have
Mm-hmm.
practices, they do poorly, play, they mess up, but they find a peace and a joy. That's actually one of the big keys of them leaning back into the game, finding a way to love it, find a way to improve it, and do something amazing. And then that's how they have this great success. And so if we apply that to our lives and go, let's pull back a little bit from the rigidity of it all. Let's have a little more peace, manage ourselves and our emotions, see the potential of what's there. Life is lived and
Uh,
experienced in a vast different way.
oh, yeah. Think about like nature. Nothing in nature is rigid, right? Like it's,
Uh,
and we are nature as human. Like
yeah,
we are human. We are animals. Like nothing in nature is. There are not even any straight lines in nature.
no,
Not one. Like there are no straight lines. So why would there be a straight line for your life? Or a tree is never like, well, this is it. This is how I am. Like we move with the seasons. Like we change. We have to be malleable. Like
mm,
rigidity just doesn't work. Like
no,
I mean, we can think it can, we can trick ourselves like a little bit into thinking that we have control
yeah,
when we're like, but
yeah.
I don't know. I'd
You got
look
to
to your
loosen
life
up.
for proof. Yeah, I'd look to your life for proof that rigidity works, and see if it served you.
See how it rolls. So, it's.
Yeah.
Do you? You didn't say you didn't do sports. You did like you know anything about lifting weights at all by chance?
Oh heck no! But I really admire people who can do it.
So
I'm not
there's
quite there
this.
yet.
Well, there's a metaphor. Something called a power. You ever heard of a power clean? Ever heard of it before?
No. Then
So
tell
power
me.
cleans where you get the bars on the ground, you get in front of it, and you grab it. You bend down, grab it, you pull, and you get up to your chest, and you hold the bar across the front part of your chest. It's up here. You ever
Okay.
seen that before? The weights on the side, the
Yeah,
bars,
yeah.
and somebody's. So it's called a power clean. Now the way it works is that you got those things can be like 300, 400 pounds. Those bars sometimes. And what happens is most people put a full grip around it. And they want to hold it, but the problem is like your wrists can't hold that much weight. In fact, it's supposed to be the shelf of your chest, like across your pectorals, on your clavicles, and your. What you actually do is you have to release the grip a little bit. You can't hold it rigidly. You have to release the grip, let it fall back, and it's the most stable and under control as you can get it. But most people want to hold it here. But you can't hold that there. You have to release. So in fact, releasing the grip gives you more control. And that's kind of how I navigate life. Like when I want to, let me release the grip on my relationship and let it just float where it's supposed to. It'll find the space to make it navigatable. I can't control my wife. Like, oh no, let it go. And so in doing parenting in the business. And so my life is a matter of like, it's heavy. There's heavy things, but they are better controlled when I release this rigidity and this grip I want to have on it, and it'll find its place to settle in and be carried.
Oh, I love that. No, I love that as as an example. And I'm sure you can even hurt yourself if you're doing it the wrong way,
You
right?
can break your wrist.
You can break your wrist, right? So like there is risk to thinking that that clinging is the right thing. Like it can harm us. Like I've noticed it does. One chapter in my book, it's called take it seriously but hold it lightly. And I think that that's wonderful, right? Because I know what I want. You know what you want. Like your desires, they're clear to us and we're tuned into ourselves. And there's so much that we can do, right? There's so much that our action is absolutely necessary. But there's only, like, I can present myself, for example, for opportunities, but I can't make people say yes. I can't make people follow me. Like, that's not available. But I can show up for my portion. And then the rest is like the releasing of the wrists on the. But I'm there in the gym with the weights, like with the right, like that's what we can do.
I agree. Well done. It's beautiful, man. It's actually a beautiful place to kind of conclude this bad boy because time flies when you're having fun, and I've really enjoyed chatting with you. So I have two questions. First question is, where can I send people to get your book, to get more of you? Where would I send them?
I would check out the Let It Be Easy podcast. I hope you'll be a guest, Anthony.
Count me in.
Yes. But we speak a lot about this topic, and I think that there are so many areas in your life that can improve pretty rapidly that we don't even realize. And so that's what we speak about a lot, with a lot of practical tools, tips, and cool interviews with really amazing people. And I do daily episodes, just 5 to 7 minutes, so you can listen when you're doing your skincare routine or making your coffee. To set your day up for success.
I like that idea. I do a daily podcast, but not with guests, though. That's cool. I like the idea. Final question. Take wherever you want to go with it. There's no setup for a specific purpose, but here's what it is. What promise did God make to the world when he created you?
Oh, what a beautiful question. Well, I do believe that we all do have something to contribute that's extremely unique and important. And I think with me, the promise is that whatever happens and stuff that you don't think is survivable, you can still have a very, very good time.
That's good. Yeah, solid. Because if we can be an example of that, then that's sometimes what people need. They don't always need to be told; they need to be shown. So,
And so, if I can live my life as a joyful person with with an interesting background, then that's my contribution.
Awesome! I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Those of you guys who were still tuned in and listening as well, thank you, because you could have been anywhere with your time, but you chose to come hang with us, and it's appreciated. If something in this podcast triggered you in a positive way, you go, man, I really like that. Do me a favor, rate, review, share that. Reach out to Susie, let her know, but also share it with somebody in your world. Maybe they just need to hear that one message that you can't get to them, but me and Susie may be able to kind of drop some weird nugget. Just share the podcast out with the world. Also, go to check out her podcast, Let It Be Easy. You may listen to me there, who knows? But yeah, outside of that, thank you again. And as always, make the most of your off shift moments so you can make shift happen. It's Anthony Trucks and Susie Moore signing off. Hey, thank you for tuning into the Shift podcast. I pray that we gave something amazing to your life. And if you found this episode served you in some way, I would love if you could share it with people you know, people you love, as well as your community, because you never know who needs that simple little seed that can grow into something amazing for their life. And the actual training doesn't stop here. If you want your free copy of the show notes sent to you after every episode so you can get the major points consolidated down, simply go to textanthony.com and message the word notes. Till next time, make shift happen.